This is a full beginner's guide to OnlyFans chatting, not just another generic video giving you the same bare bones information you've heard a million times. Whether you're a creator, chatter, or agency, I'm going to give you an entire system that you can use to make more money in the OnlyFans DMs. I've been in this industry for 3 years running my agency where I predominantly focus on innovating and improving in the chats. First things first, what kind of content are you actually going to be dealing with when you're chatting on OnlyFans? Because it all centers around the content, right? One of the most common and most effective ways of selling content is sexting sequences or scripts. And if you don't know, they're basically a series of photos and videos that are taken as if they're happening live, and you sell them as they get progressively more explicit and expensive. So they end up spending quite a bit of money. The reason they work so well is because they're meant to be live, it feels like this personal experience that the fan is getting with the creator. If you want to make one for yourself or you want to request a sequence from a creator, follow this general framework. Because it's meant to be live, you want the same outfit, same setting, same makeup, just make it look like it took place at the same time. You want to hide natural light. If it's day, go somewhere in your house where you can't see that it's day. If it's night, same thing. You just want to make sure that you can send it anytime without them going, oh, but I know it's not day, that's pre-recorded. Like this room, you can't tell if this is day or night, right? You want to start, so for your first teaser in your sequence, try to make sure that it's a non-sexual picture or clip, 10 seconds or just a picture. I'm watching TV, I'm eating lunch, anything, right? Because it's going to help us transition into that sequence a lot more smoothly, but we'll get to that later. You want each video, so each pay-per-view video, to have a clear progression, right? So let's say your first pay-per-view is a boob reveal, for example. You would want your second video to be a bit more exciting, so maybe pussy reveal, right? That's just an example. But if you charge 20 for the first one and then 40 for the second one, and it's basically the same video, then they might get upset and not buy the rest. You also, well, I like to make it so that they're 20 seconds longer each time, pretty much for the same reason. You also want a series of long pay-per-views. So let's say 6 to 8 minute long videos that are just, they could be anything, but just some longer videos you can sell for a higher price as a single item. Because this isn't going to work with everyone, the like live sexting thing. Some people just want a long, solid video off the bat, and you want to have something for them. You also want photo sets. I would just call it photo sets. So it could be a series of boob pictures you take all together, or in black lingerie, green lingerie, bikini, just get them in sets. Then you can sell them as sets, you can sell them as singles. It's a good way to request the content or create the content. You also want conversational or just general pictures. So just general selfies, general photos of like food, like what food the creator's been eating, things like that. If they have pets, if you want to share that, anything like that is just going to make it feel a lot more personal, right? And also verification pictures and voice notes. Now, this is a bit difficult to actually do, but basically a lot of subscribers are going to ask for things to prove that you're not a chatter, right? That you're not an agency. Oh, can you say my name in a voice note? Can you send me a photo of you holding a fork? It'll be something random like that. You can try to prepare for that. Like you can get creators to, send me a photo of you holding a glass, a mug, a fork, a spoon, this or that. It's pretty hard to actually pull this off, but you can try, right? It's something to consider. And for the voice notes, you can just look up the 50 most common male names and get a voice note of the creator going, it's me, Tom. You basically want to flesh out the vault. So obviously in OnlyFans, where you keep the content is the vault, with as many different kinds of content as possible so we can cater to as many different fans and make as much money as possible. Now, super important, organize your content. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to find anything as you're chatting and you'll miss all the opportunities because it just takes way too long. So make sure the vault is organized before you start chatting. For the categories, I like to go for tiered categories by price. Whatever content you do or your creator does, you should come up with a content hierarchy. So all that is let's say you've got your baseline content, cheapest content you do, and then there's one step up from that, then there's one step up from that, and then your expensive content, most expensive content. I just like to create a category for each of those. And this is for your general content that isn't part of a sexting sequence. For example, you could organize the vault like conversational selfies and stuff, so that's your free stuff. then boobs, baseline, cheapest, pussy/ass, next step up, toys, next step up again, toys anal, next step up again, sex tapes, most expensive. For example, that's a good way just to be able to find anything really quickly. You want to remove duplicates. Now you can use a CRM like Inflow or BuddyX, and that will tell you if you've already sent content to a fan, because OnlyFans doesn't do that by default in the vault. You have to check the gallery. It's a bit annoying. But if you have duplicates, that's not going to work because they might have got this version of it, but not this version. It's the same one. For your sexting sequences or any content that's meant to be sold together, I would put that in its own folder. So like this, I put it underneath these categories. Your sequence A folder, sequence B, so on. Also, have a folder for custom videos and make sure it's separate from all of these. So if it's a video where it's like, this is for you, Tim, you don't send it to Charlie, and Charlie gets very upset. Also, if you use BuddyX or Inflow, which I would recommend using one of them, just any CRM where you can label your content, it's going to help a lot for sexting sequences because you can go, video 1, this is free. Video 2, this is free. Video 3, this is paid. This is a boob video, so chatters don't have to watch it, right? You just want to organize it as best as you can so there's as little confusion and people can be really fast. One of the biggest mistakes that chatters and agencies make when they take on a new creator is they don't spend time learning the account. Then they come on with all their ways of doing things, which might be better, might be worse, but they're different and all the fans realize. So you want to stay consistent just for a while with what's being done in the chats right now, and then you can make your changes over time. Don't do things suddenly. People will realize. Spend 1 to 2 hours reading through all the conversations you can. Take notes of things like emojis that are being used. What names are they using for the fans? They're calling them baby, love, their real name, right? The tone. What kind of messages are they sending? Short ones, long ones, single ones, multiple messages, friendly, not so friendly, right? Take note of all of it. And the pay-per-view captions and pricing. Are they sending long captions with all these emojis, or are they shorter, maybe even dry captions? Are they pricing things like $20 or $19.99? Those little details people will pick up on, especially spenders, and they're the ones that you don't want to lose. Speaking of, you want to identify the spenders on the account. So a good way to do that, a simple way, is to just look through the statement and just look for names that come up a lot. Anyone that's spending money, really, I would recommend reading the conversation, but you will start to realize there are people that are spending a lot more. You can also look through the notifications tab to see, who's been spending sort of recently, because that's pretty relevant now. And then if you use Inflow, Creator Hero, Fans Metric, any of these CRMs, they tend to have a smart list feature, which takes a bit of, you have to set it up. Pretty simple. You basically go, I want 3 lists. I want low spenders, medium spenders, high spenders, for example. Low spenders would be $0 to $400, medium would be $400 to $1,000, and then high is $1,000 plus. That's just an example. But if you do that, it's going to automatically add all the fans to those lists after a few hours, right? Which is pretty handy to have. Some creators will just add fans to lists and say these are the spenders. So I would look at the list as well. You just want to learn about the spenders, the relationships that they have with the creator, and their buying behavior. Just because they're spenders, just because you've seen a guy is buying stuff for $200, don't go and send him a single selfie for $200. That's a pretty extreme example. But you want to see what content does he like? What does he want to buy? Because if you just come in with random things that you're trying to sell him for random prices, it might be a bit suspicious. Now it's time to actually start talking to the fans, which as a beginner can be a little bit overwhelming having all these conversations going at the same time. So I just want you to remember this one thing. Your only job is just don't let conversations die. Die as in they leave you on red, they don't know what to say, and it ends, right? You've got to remember, a lot of these guys are a little bit weird, or they can't really be bothered to put much effort into talking to you. You need to be the one to carry the conversation. You need to be friendly, easy to reply to. That's the big one, easy to reply to, right? Because if they don't talk, they don't spend money, right? That means no dry replies. Things like, okay, oh really, wow, cool, haha. Like, what do you even say to that? As a beginner, you might find yourself just accidentally saying stuff like that if you're in a rush, but you really need to just go, no, like, I need to keep this going. You can do that by asking questions, right? And a good tip with questions is a lot of people will say use open-ended questions like, what was the highlight of your week, Scott? But I would say it's better, easier to reply to use a this or that question. So, did you have a busy or relaxed week, Scott? Right? Much easier to reply to. That applies to all questions you can ask, pretty much. You need to keep checking to see if you've been left on read proactively, right? Click on all in your inbox and look through the chats at who you've been talking to and open them up. If you see 2 ticks, you've been left on read. It's fine, follow up. Scott, you still there? You still with me, right? You need to do that a lot. If you don't do that, you'll find that, where'd that guy even go? Like, I was gonna sell him and it just disappeared. Oh, he's left me on read 4 hours ago. Fucked, right? Fucked. One thing that a lot of chatters can't be bothered to do when they get wrong is when fans ask about what they are doing, the creator, they'll just go, relaxing, I'm in bed, not much, because they can't be bothered to think of something. But it comes off as very robotic and dry, and that kills the conversation too. So you need to be able to seem interesting, like you're doing stuff. And a good tip for that is you can just use a mundane topic, like a mundane story. So let's say going to the shops, for example. So instead of just going, I went to the shops, you could say, oh, I met up with my friend that I haven't seen for 2 years, and then we got a lift to the shops, we got some Chinese food, then we got our nails done, watched a movie, my nail cracks, then I had to go back, but I didn't have the right color. You know what I mean? Like, people will just read that stuff, right? You're carrying the conversation. Use that to create conversation. If you feel the conversation dying, go, I need to tell you something that happened today, right? That's how you keep it alive. You also need to take interest in stuff they tell you. If they tell you, like, I work in the mines, don't just go, oh, really? Cool. Say, oh, wow, how far underground do you go? Do you use those big machines? Like, is it dangerous? Like, seem like you care, right? And they'll like you. Very important, recording everything they tell you and everything you tell them in the notes. On either, depending on what you use, OnlyFans notes, right? Or the inflow notes or CRM notes, whatever you use, right? Their job, location, their real name. You should be getting their real name for sure. If they've got those like U1327 generic names, get their real name, right? Super important. And if you tell them a story like I was saying about how you went to the shops, make sure you write it in the notes. Get in that habit, like, prevents a lot of problems. As you're chatting, you'll be presented with a lot of difficult situations because fans are really annoying. They'll ask for meetups, they'll want to add you on Snapchat, they'll want this content when you only have that content. They're annoying. The best advice I can give you is always stay positive and friendly no matter how annoying they are, because getting in a little petty argument with them will not make you more money. It just won't. For some of those really annoying ones, like when they want to meet up or go off platform, there's 2 ways you can look at it. Either you can just say no, which is fine, right? You can do that. It's against the rules. You should never do it anyway. So saying no is fair enough. But some people might go, okay, I don't really want to talk then, and they might not end up spending money they would have spent if they were to keep on talking. The other thing you can do is allude to what they're saying. So don't say yes, but don't say no. And if you're very new, I would be careful about doing this because it is against the rules to talk about meetups or going off platform on OnlyFans, right? So you could say, I'm not really sure yet, right? I think we should just keep talking for a bit longer. Like, I feel a bit uncomfortable with that right now, right? Like, that's not saying yes, not saying no. A good trick is saying, I'm open-minded, but not yet, right? Not saying yes, not saying no. That's okay. You can generally get away with that. If you really need to say something to steer away from that line of conversation, you can back up what you're saying with a story. So let's say they wanted to meet up. You could go, like my friend met up with someone on OnlyFans and it was a bad situation. She didn't really feel safe, so that's kind of put me off that for now. Pretty hard to argue with that. You could do the same thing with Snapchat. Oh, this guy was like tracking my friend on Snapchat. Don't get too carried away with it, but that's a good way to kind of know. Like, we can't talk about this. You can also just say, we're not allowed to talk about this on OnlyFans. But with these situations, don't give up, right? When they make it hard. Don't just, the second they want to talk about meeting up, leave them on delivered for like hours. You need to, if you want to be a good chatter, you need to actually face it head on, try to navigate it, and bring the conversation back to selling them. And you will be able to do that with time. Just stay friendly, keep trying, right? Do all those things I'm saying, allude, change the subject, divert, and over time you will realize you can control the conversation and you can end up selling those more difficult people. Now that's all well and good, but how do we actually start to sell content? Because that's what this is all really about. Well, first I can tell you what not to do. Don't just drift through the chats waiting for people to ask to buy something specifically or seem horny. You need to be the aggressor. You need to take the sale to them. And the first step in doing that is always making a plan, right? You need to choose who you're going to sell, what you're going to sell them, and lock in on them until it's done, right? So first, who will I sell? Let's say you have 20 people talking right now. The first thing I would look at if you're a beginner or if you're just new to the account is, okay, well, who is at least in a position to be sold? So let's say we've got Ben, who's on his lunch break and he's about to go back to work for 3 hours and not talk to you. Probably wouldn't lock in on him. But we've got Tim, who's in bed doom scrolling and he won't go to sleep for another 2 hours. Probably a much better option because you have the time to go through the process and sell them, right? Once you've chosen who you're going to sell, you need some way of pinning them or prioritizing them so you can keep on top of it. I always say to my chatters, pin your prospects, right? Pin who you're going to sell. On inflow, you can right click on their name, open it in a new tab, it opens up at the top, and now you can clearly see everyone that you're selling right now. If you're just on OnlyFans, you can physically pin the chat to the top of the inbox. You can put an emoji in their name. You just need some way to keep track of who you're selling, or you're just going to forget and take too long to reply, miss the opportunity, whatever. It's really important. Next, you need to choose, okay, what will I sell them, right? Because if you just get to the point where you can sell them and then you're going, fuck, now I need to choose what to sell. And you're looking through the vault like what do I sell them? It's been 7 minutes and then they're gone or they've bought something else from some other creator. Like, you're fucked. So you need to know in advance. To choose what to sell, I would just look at, well, what content have they been buying? What do they seem to like? What prices do they seem to buy for, right? Generally, you'd want to start with something lower priced because you can always upsell. And I'm going to show you how to do that later. But I would either sell them something that's cheaper, a few photos, short video, or a sexting sequence, right? For all intensive purposes, let's just refer to sexting sequences. Now, you actually need to transition from this normal conversation to sexting and selling because not all the fans are going to just seem horny and do it themselves. So you have to take the conversation to that place. But if you do that in a very rushed or aggressive way that doesn't really make sense, it's going to feel robotic and they're going to think, okay, all she wanted to do was sell me content. She just talked to me, waited till she could sell me content and then, whatever. We want to make it their idea. And how do we do that? The best frame of mind that I can give you is, instead of thinking, okay, well, how can I make this conversation sexual? Think, how can we start talking about what we would be doing if we were together? Here's a little way that you can do that, right? I would just keep doing this on repeat. It works pretty well. Remember how I said when you're making a sequence, you need that non-sexual teaser, just a video of the creator doing something normal, like watching TV. That's what this is for. So you send that out of nowhere. Could be after 5 minutes. I'm all for being aggressive. I think it's fine if you transition well. You send your teaser and you say, I'm looking for something to watch. Make sure it's non-sexual. You're just having a conversation, right? Have a little talk about that, what shows you're watching, something like that, right? This is interchangeable. It could be any topic, but this is just the idea. Then you need to ask an if you were here question that is also not sexual. In this example, if you were here, what show would you put on for us to watch? They'll answer it with something, and that's when you can start your flirting and make it a little bit more sexual, because really, where's that going to go? Oh, if we were watching a show together, well, I wonder if we'd start getting distracted. Like, how long would we really be paying attention for? It's very easy to make it feel like their idea, and then it seems much more organic. Then when you go to sell content, they're already going to be turned on enough to buy it. Now you need a way of keeping fans excited and impulsive over long periods of time so you can keep on selling them content. And that's where sexting comes into play. And there are two main ways of sexting with a fan. Both of them work, but I'll just give you my breakdown of both and which one I personally prefer. So the first way is what most chatters will do. They'll sell sexting sequences, so content that's meant to be live, and it'll go something like this. They'll say something to make the conversation sexual, like, oh, I'm horny, or I want to have some fun. Like, can I show you something? And then the fan goes, yeah, sure. They go, okay, give me 2 seconds, let me take it. They send it, and they'll probably caption it with something like, oh, do you like the way that I took my top off for you and I played with my big juicy boobs? And you know what I mean. Basically what they're doing, when we really break it down, is they're really just focusing on the content itself. Oh, I want to take this really hot video for you. You're making me so horny that I want to do this for you right now. And they're just focusing on what they're doing right now, if that makes sense. The other way is by telling a story of what they would be doing if they were together. It's basically continuing on that transition that I was telling you about before. So let's go back to that example. If you were here, what show would you put on for us, right? So let's say they're sitting together watching Netflix. You just need to imagine, how would that story go, right? It would start with, hand stuff and finger stuff, and then move on to like oral sex and then actual sex. Like, you're telling it like it's a story, but you're sticking to that one story and it gets more exciting over time. I hope that makes sense. You want to be using lots of detail so they can really visualize it, right? Don't just say everything really quickly. Here's a good example. You wouldn't say, like, this is an analogy, right? This is an analogy because I can't give you the proper example on YouTube. I could say, this morning I got out of bed. Or I could say, this morning at 7 a.m., it was a cloudy day. I pulled my brown doona off my body and slid out of my queen-size bed very slowly and put on my grey dressing gown. Do you know what I mean? Do you understand how I'm saying the same thing, but I'm using lots of detail? So it's more, you can visualize that more. You can imagine me doing that. But if I just say I got out of bed, you can't really imagine that. I hope you can apply that. When you're telling this story, right, you want to include their preferences if you can. So let's say they're into like feet. You could say, and then I'd put my feet in your face. You know what I mean? Just stuff that you know is going to push all the right buttons for them. Basically, you send your pay-per-views as you tell your story. As the story gets more exciting, the pay-per-views get more exciting and more expensive as well, right? They get really into it and it works really well. It might take you a bit of practice, but yeah. I personally prefer this way. And the reason for that is, if we go back to the first way of sexting, where you're really just talking about what you're doing right now, then I'm going to take this video for you. Oh, do you want to see me take my pants off? That might be exciting the first 3 times you do it with this one fan. Sure, but the 7th, 8th, and 9th time you do that, they're probably going to be like, oh, well, I've already seen that before. But if you do it this way, you can change this story as many ways as possible, right? Like, you could change it. You could tell a million different kinds of sexual stories. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you see the difference? That's what keeps them excited, as opposed to just going, oh, do you want to see me take my boobs out again? Right? That's why I prefer this way. Both of them work, but it's good to be aware of both. I really hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you are, I'd love if you could leave this video a like. It helps me out a lot. If you want more no bullshit OFM advice, consider subscribing, share this video with your friends, and if you want any topics covered that could help with the problem that you're facing, just leave them in the comments and I'll try to get to all of them. Thank you. Now it's time to send some pay-per-views, and obviously the way you do this is very important. If the video you're sending is meant to be taken live, so right now, you need to wait the length of the video before you send it. Let's say your last reply was at 9 p.m. If the video you wanted to send was 3 minutes long, you'd have to wait till 9:03 p.m. or it's literally impossible that the video could be taken right now. For pricing, I would follow this general framework most of the time, especially for a new sub who hasn't been sent anything yet. You want to start with a low price, right? And then steadily increase the price with upsells. The reason that we do this is, while you could try to just sell a $180 pay-per-view straight away, generally, not always, usually that's not going to work because the sub isn't excited and impulsive enough to buy that yet. Then they say no, and it's a bit hard to turn a no into a yes. It's generally going to be more effective to charge a low price at the start, get them in the door, and then upsell them on the next price, which is a little bit more expensive, then a little bit more expensive. So here's a few examples on how you could price content in either a sexting sequence or just if you're sending pay-per-views freestyle. 20, 40, 70, 120, 180, 200, or if you wanted to be a bit smart and use prices that look a bit cheaper, psychology, do 14, 29, 59, 99, 129, 169. I haven't seen that makes a huge difference, but that's up to you. Next is your caption, and you really want to get this right as it's that last little push to get the fan to buy your content. I would go for longer, more detailed captions that are meant to be as arousing as possible. Now at the start, you might be a bit slower to write captions, and that's all right. What I would do is write them in advance, so you can just have them ready and send them. So write them for each piece of content and then send them when you need. It is better to be able to write them in the moment and personalize them to the fan and the situation, but ultimately it doesn't matter how good your caption is if it takes 20 minutes to send it. So definitely do that. Now, if you are writing it in the moment, I would follow a framework something like this. For the first line, quote their sexting. So basically repeat something that they've said. Let's say they said, I want to pin you down. You could start your caption with, thinking about you pinning me down made me do this. Next, you want to talk about how you felt while taking the video. And this is where you make it seem like a big deal, basically. But don't reveal too much of what's happening in the video. This was so intense. I can't believe I pushed myself that far. I never usually do this. I'll probably unsend it. This was crazy. Stuff like that, right? And just go on a bit, exaggerate. Next, I like to ask a question. So the trick with this is you want to ask a question they could only answer by watching that video. For example, could you resist eating it if I did this right in front of you? They have to watch it to answer that question. You know what I mean? It acts kind of like a call to action without asking them to buy it. Last, I would just throw in their name. You should know it, just put their name at the end, nice little personal touch. As they buy more and more pay-per-views, you want to start sending them faster. As they get more excited and impulsive, it becomes easier to sell them more content at a higher price. You need to recognize something called the fuck it button, which a lot of fans will do it, where they'll get to a point when they've bought enough that they'll just keep buying everything you put in front of them. You need to see that and you need to capitalize on it, right? Don't be shy, so to speak. But the problem is, as they get more excited, they get more likely to finish early, which you don't want because then they stop. So just make sure that your pace increases as they buy more and more. As you're trying to sell content, it won't be long before you hear your first no. But how do you turn those no's into yeses? You need good objection handling. Don't give up when fans don't make it easy. A lot of people have this mentality of, oh, well, if they don't buy, stop talking to them. They're a time waster, just move on to other people. And while I get where they're coming from, if you want to be great at chatting, you need to be the one that will persist until they buy. And I guarantee you a lot of people are going to buy if you do that. When you're objection handling, you need to stay positive. Don't guilt trip them and use all this negative emotion to get them to buy. They may buy it in the short term, but you're going to push them away. It's not going to create long-term spenders. You also don't want to over negotiate, right? If you send a video for 100 and they go, too expensive. Okay, I'll drop it down to 70. Oh, too expensive. I'll drop it down to 40. You've just shown them that you'll drop more than half your price like that, right? They're never going to pay much for your content because they know they can just ask for less. So instead of discounting it, here's a few things you can do to get them to buy. I like to say that it's better to offer more value before lowering cost. It's better to give them more for the same price rather than discounting it because it's more money. And a great way to do that is by making it a game. So basically you give them a little challenge around this pay-per-view, and if they can do it, you give them a little incentive. It's a great way to do it. Here's an example. If you can watch this one without finishing, I'll take another one for you completely on me. So that would be giving them content, but it doesn't have to be content. You give them a dick rating or a sexting session or anything, a voice note, right? It works really well. Now, that's not the same as if you watch this one, I'll give you another one free. No, that's not the point, right? The point is it's a game. That's what excites them enough to get it. You can also use FOMO or fear of missing out to get them to buy it. And that would be using language like, I mean, having that there is making me a bit nervous. I don't usually go that far. I feel like you'll judge me if you watch that. I might just unsend it. Make them feel like they need to see this pay-per-view. Like, why is she so nervous about it? Like, why is this such a big deal to her? She's gonna unsend it. It works, right? It actually works. If you absolutely have to lower the price, now you can lower the price a little bit, but I would strongly suggest you renegotiate terms. So let's say you send a video for 70 and they go, sorry, that's too expensive. I literally don't have that much money. You've tried this. You go, okay, well, you have $40. I'll send you this shorter video for 40. That way you get something. I don't lower my prices. Everyone's happy. It's better because then they don't think that you're just going to drop prices like that and everyone gets something. These are some of the most important money-making habits for chatting that I really want to drill into you. You know what I mean? Following up. If you send a pay-per-view to somebody and they haven't bought it for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, follow up with them. Oh, James, you still there? Anything wrong? You know what I mean? Follow up. If someone buys a pay-per-view, so if you're selling them a sequence, you're selling them anything, or they buy a mass pay-per-view that's been sent out, anything, follow up with them. And the point is, you want to get them excited about the next thing you're going to sell them. Now I've got an idea. Want to hear what I do next? Capture their attention and use that to get them excited about the next thing, right? Also, like I said before, click on all, look through your inbox and see if you've been left on red, follow up. It's going to happen a lot more than you think. So if you get in that habit, you're going to have a lot more people to talk to, a lot more money. Aftercare. After you sell people, it is imperative that you don't just leave them and move on to other people, right? Keep on replying to them because otherwise they're going to check their bank statement the next day after you just ghosted them and let them alone with their thoughts, and they're going to go, wow, I'm a fuckwit. I'm going to just delete my account. And that's one of your potential spenders gone. So keep talking to them, make them feel like it was, a good decision, like, oh, that was fun. Like, what are you doing now? What are you doing for the rest of the night? What's your plan for tomorrow? Anything. Just don't disappear once you're done with them, right? Obviously, that's going to go away. Speed. Now, as you're just a beginner, most likely, I'm not going to just tell you, you need to reply to everyone within 32 seconds, because that doesn't really help you. What I will tell you, though, is you need to learn when you need to be fast. You need to prioritize people. If you are selling someone a sequence or anything, or your objection handling or your anything, that's when you need to be fast, right? That's when you need to be fast. You should leave other people to prioritize the people where you can make money right now, right? You can be like, oh, but I want to clear the chats out. Like, okay, but you're not going to make money because you need to focus on where the money is. You should be replying within 1 minute to the people that you're selling, right? Get in the habit of prioritizing people. Yes, you should continue to keep making a plan and looking for new opportunities. That's very important too. But you need to be realistic. You only have limited focus. So you need to focus your energy where the money is and be fast there. And don't wait for opportunities. This is probably the biggest one. If your account is dead right now, right? Don't just sit there and wait for people to show up. Follow up, look for people that have been left on read. Send out personalized messages like, hey James, like it's been a while, we haven't spoken. Like just try to get the conversation started again. You can send that to people you know have spent recently, people you know used to spend a lot of money, old whales, anything, just message them all. If you have nothing else to do, message them all. And new subscribers, look through the subscriptions. Okay, who subscribed recently? Maybe we missed some of them and they never said anything. Could be a big spender, you don't know. And a really good one that I didn't add here is people that have liked your posts. Look through the notifications tab and you're gonna see a bunch of people that have been liking your posts and not saying anything. So you can open up the chat, message them. People that are engaging, talk to them. Like I was saying before, one of the most important skills in chatting is objection handling, getting fans to buy when they don't make it easy. Now, it's such a big topic that I couldn't really go into the full nitty-gritty of all of it. That's why I made an entire video all about objection handling. So you should watch that video next. It's right there. Watch it. Enjoy the rest of your day.